What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to NFL Turf Talk Week 16 kickoff show live here on DSM Media's Turf Talk YouTube channel. Guys, first and foremost, if you are new to the channel, if you like the content, if you want to be interactive, like my man Will is here in the comment section, make sure to support by smashing that subscribe button. Is the best spot to get your comments pulled up here on the screen with your host. I am one half of them this morning, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. Merry Christmas Eve to everybody out there. Scotty's looking festive. Got the little beer Santa hat shirt going on over here, man. But how are you feeling, man? Hope your weekend's going good. Hope everybody's weekend's going good. And we've got a lot of football to talk about today.
Absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to it. A lot of football to be played today and tomorrow as well. But yeah, just enjoying the Christmas weekend, having some drinks, and keeping things light, relaxing. So it's been nice, man. It's been a fun weekend so far, and I expect that to continue today. Hopefully, we can win some bets, and that will make
sounds good. In theory, that always sounds good, right? And especially
unless it goes the other way.
Yeah, you start the day off 2-0 like myself yesterday, and you're feeling good about yourself, and a couple drinks are flowing. You're like, you know what? Let me up the ante on this next wager, and then we lost that one, and then let me get my money back on this one. We've lost this one now too, and now you're in a little bit of a hole yourself.
Do you have any money in either of those NFL games yesterday?
No. So I stayed away.
They both went haywire in the opposite direction of what I thought. So I didn't have it too much.
Yeah, I was not riding with Rudolph. He was not leading the way for me, and then obviously Easton Stick was not going to get in my way on this Christmas Eve either. So I started out with some college basketball. Altered myself to JMU. Surprise, lose that one. Went to St. John's, UConn, lost that one. Wrapped up with some Kings T-Wolves, lost that one. So 2-3 on the day, all in all. Scotty, not great, but
we get a break from
we move today. Yes, sir. Yeah. We move on to today. But before we do so, a couple of Week 16 games to look back on, man, from Thursday night with the two games yesterday. Some playoff implications throughout all. You had the New Orleans Saints and the Rams play on Thursday. The Rams come away with a 30-22 win, finding themselves right in the thick of things of the NFC wildcard race, while New Orleans has a chance to kind of build a little bit of an NFC South lead, maybe take control there by a game or so. They fail to do so against Stafford and the Rams. Jake Browning and the Bengals absolutely dominated by Mason Rudolph. Yesterday afternoon, the Steelers come away with a 34-11 win. I called them cooked. I said you could put them in the stove, figure in the oven. Maybe they're not, Scotty. Maybe they find a way to sneak into the playoffs. But this team that wrapped things up last night in the third and final game are finding themselves right atop the wild card race, or right around there. The now 9-6 Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen come away with a very scary win against Easton Stick and the LA Chargers, but a win nonetheless, man. And they find themselves with a great opportunity to get in the playoffs as one of the more dangerous teams, I would say, out in the AFC, with the way that they've been playing, with the way that other teams are battling injuries at the quarterback position. Buffalo, obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about. There's something to look out for. But out of those three games, what was kind of your biggest takeaway, biggest storyline that you're looking at?
Yeah, I think, just looking at that Buffalo game, putting that one in perspective, it was reassuring for me as an Eagles fan, because the Buffalo Bills are playing some really, really good football right now. And once again, we see another example of any given Sunday, a good to great football team walking into a dismal football team's house and getting taken to the wire and almost losing that game. So once again, just shows you how wild this NFL season is, and brings me back again to a point as an Eagles fan. I have to find ways, man. I have to find ways to be positive amongst the 3-game losing streak. But it brings me back to the point where we just can't count this Eagles team out at the end of the day, because anything can happen on any given Sunday. But to go to the Steelers-Bengals, just kind of go in reverse order here. The Steelers and Bengals, I don't look at that as the Steelers coming alive. I look at that as the Bengals officially dying. And so from that standpoint, I took it more as the Bengals losing that game, losing their hopes to get into the playoffs, and the Steelers just kind of staying in middle ground there.
Staying afloat.
I don't think. I mean, I would have to look at the rest of their schedule. Let's see who they got left on here.
I don't know
The
if they play
Seahawks and the
Baltimore.
Ravens. They're in Seattle, and then they go to Baltimore. So, do I think the Steelers are going to make the playoffs? No. Do I want them to? No. Do I think they deserve to? No. I do not want to see Mason Rudolph in the playoffs, period, man.
No.
I would have rather have seen Jake Browning. To be fair, he outplayed him yesterday, and that's all good. George Pickens went the hell off yesterday with Mason Rudolph.
Jaylen Warren with possibly the block of the year.
Yeah, that was mean. That was mean. And the defense played a lot better yesterday as well. But still, I have no interest in seeing that boring ass team in the playoffs. There's teams that I'd rather see Gardner Minshew. I would rather see Houston if they get CJ Stroud back.
I agree.
Like,
Stroud will be back. Minshew, at least there's a story there, right? There's an explosion on offense potentially. With this Pittsburgh team, you're just getting ready for a potential grinded out defensive battle, which I guess in January sometimes is cool to mix in there. But I will say, I'd rather see Mason Rudolph in a playoff game than Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky at the moment.
Fair enough. Fair enough. He looked like a completely
if that was the case, he definitely should stick to the end of the year.
The Rams are a pretty good team, man. They look pretty good at this point in the season. And
another Eagles victory.
Want to play in the first round, I would say that with that offense with Matthew Stafford experience.
Another Eagles victory you can look back on and say, hey, maybe a good team there.
Absolutely. So we beat the Rams earlier this season, and it improves the Saints draft pick for us as well. So
I agree, man. There were 6 teams that played since Thursday night. I would say 5 of them, obviously outside of the now eliminated Chargers, all have a chance to make the playoffs. They had a chance, still do have a chance to make the postseason. And I would say, but just outside of Buffalo, the LA Rams are that next team for me. That meaning a team that could potentially make some noise, that could upset a division winner in the first round of wild card weekend. I think Buffalo, obviously, you talk about just pedigree with Josh Allen. When you're doing your preseason rankings, they're probably a top 5 team. The Rams, a lot of overhaul on defense, some offensive line issues. You don't view the Rams as a top 10 team, right?
Yeah.
They're playing like a very scary team, and that starts with the quarterback. Like Matthew Stafford, Matthew Stafford looks like a top 5 quarterback at the moment.
Yeah.
Like the dude's slinging it. And you have Cooper Kupp there to see what he's doing with Puka Nacua this year. It's just another great statistical wide receiver year that Matthew Stafford is the quarterback of, right? Calvin Johnson, Cooper Kupp had the 2 greatest seasons ever. What's the common denominator? Matthew Stafford got them the ball. Puka Nacua, as a rookie wide receiver this year, steps on the field. Stafford elevates him to over 1,000, way over 1,000-yard receiving season. It's going to be. So they're real, man. I think their issue, they lack a lot of talent defensively, and their offensive line could potentially be a problem. But in terms of scoring points, Stafford, Kupp, Nacua, Kyron Williams is running the hell out of the ball for them, scoring like every week. It feels like they have talent on the offensive side of the ball. So they're definitely a team that you have to keep an eye on come wild card weekend if they get
right there. Now. They're slated to play Detroit, so that would be a hell of a matchup in the first round of the playoffs.
It definitely would, because
definitely one they could win.
While the Rams don't post a defense that I think could really deter Goff and company from doing what they want to do in Detroit, I'll tell you this, the Rams are going to score points against that defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably a high 20s to high 30s type ball game.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. That's definitely not one.
Once you get into that territory against Matt Stafford, it's anyone's game. By the way, a little storyline there. Matt Stafford, Detroit Lions in Detroit, first round of the postseason. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. Just him revisiting Detroit
and Goff and the Rams. Yeah, Goff and the Rams as well, getting a little payback there. So
that trade comes back to fruition.
That would actually be that. Let's see if things can stay that way over the final 2 weeks for these teams, man. That would be a very cool, pretty exciting game to watch in the first weekend of the playoffs. But
absolutely.
those are 3 games, man. I agree. Buffalo, Rams, biggest storylines. Pittsburgh, it's a big win. It's an impressive win. Just the fact that you see 34 next to their team name is pretty impressive to me. But I agree all in all that I would not love to see the Pittsburgh Steelers with their offensive issues in a playoff game. Just viewership wise, right? Let's look at this. Let's look at this Week 16 slate today and tomorrow, man. Like you said, 3 games tomorrow on Christmas Day, 9 today. And let's our weekly pick'em segment. Did you start last week or did I?
I believe I started last week.
Very nice, very nice. So with that said, for my 1-1, I'm going to go ahead and take the Kansas City Chiefs tomorrow afternoon over the Las Vegas Raiders. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, obviously, sitting at 9-5. They got some comfortability above the Denver Broncos now in their as for their division lead, but obviously still fighting for a potential 2 seed. They statistically they could still get the 1 seed. You're sitting 2 games behind Baltimore. I would say it's probably not likely, but hey, Baltimore has San Fran, you have Vegas. You win, they lose this week. It's a 1-game difference heading into the the last 2 weeks of the season. So I'll go with the Chiefs number 1. I think it's a big spot for them on Christmas Day. I think they blow the Las Vegas Raiders out of Kansas City.
Yeah, I like that pick, obviously. I think out of all these matchups, which by the way, we have some great matchups this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
That one's definitely the most solidified. My first pick, I'm gonna go with the Broncos at home against the Patriots. They're a 7-point favorite. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the West. I'm gonna stick with a team that is playing for something out there in the AFC playoff standings. I know Denver, they are at the very bottom of them right now at 7-7. They're the 11th team in the AFC. But with 1 win, they could potentially jump up there ahead of Pittsburgh. They could be tied with Houston at the end of the day, who's playing the Browns for all we know. So there's a lot of different factors that can play in here. The Jags are 8-6. The Indianapolis Colts are 8-6. The Texans are 8-6. So all of these teams are still jumbled together, even with the Denver Broncos in 11th place right now in the AFC. And I think at home, you're looking at this Patriots team. At the end of the day, it's not boding well for them to continue to even win.
Oh, no. We're getting close to Caleb Williams time.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's their best bet to go out here and lose this game. And then on the other end of things, I do expect Denver to take care of business at home. They've struggled a little bit the last couple of weeks after turning it on mid-season. But I expect them to take care of business against a bad New England team.
I agree.
The worst team in the league, man.
I agree. I think that defense is going to give Bailey Zappi a lot of issues. And I think Russ will get the job done today at home. My second overall pick has less to do with the team I am picking to win and a lot more to do with the team I'm picking to lose in this matchup. Give me the Packers on the road over the Carolina Panthers. There is just not a shot in Christmas hell that Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers are winning back-to-back games this football season. Ain't happening. I'm not the biggest Jordan Love fan. You know this. They've had their ups. They've had their downs this year. They will not lose this game in Carolina. Carolina is not winning 2 games in 2 weeks. Not buying into it whatsoever. Give me the Packers.
I do like it. I like the Packers to win today. Once again, we're talking about teams that are playing for something and teams that are not playing for something. And I do agree with you there.
Actually, Carolina could be playing for quite the opposite, right?
Yeah. Quite literally. So, Carolina, the funny thing there, obviously, with their draft pick situation,
goes to Chicago, right?
Yeah. So it doesn't benefit them to lose games, but they may not have a choice in this matter. Like you said, it's really tough for a team that's 2-12 in the season to go ahead and just win 2 games in a row at this point. My second pick, I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions -3 against the Minnesota Vikings. The Detroit Lions are on the road. I do understand the Minnesota Vikings. It's a tough divisional matchup. But for me, I feel like this point in the season, the Lions, they've proven themselves to a certain extent. And I would say they've proven themselves enough to give me the confidence to take them against the Minnesota Vikings at a point in the season where the Lions need to continue to win games, right? They can't afford to lose anymore. So against a team like the Vikings, I'm going to take the Lions.
Yeah.
Against the Cowboys next weekend, I don't know, right? Like that's a
Right.
tougher team. That's a bigger matchup. But I'll take the Packers against the team, or excuse me, the Lions. Getting my NFC North teams confused there. But I'm gonna take the Lions in the divisional matchup against the Minnesota
Yeah.
Vikings, a team that they should take care of business against
Yeah,
if
and
they are the number 3 seed in the NFC, right?
yeah, and I believe it's still the Nick Mullins show in Minnesota
Yeah,
right now. That's
yeah.
obviously a game changer. Not that Josh Dobbs was getting the job done at all past the first
And
week or
more
two he got
upside,
to
man.
Minnesota. But yeah, I completely agree. Josh Dobbs, even though I watched this dude turn the ball over 5 times on Monday Night
Yeah.
Football against the Bears, Josh Dobbs and the Vikings would have a better chance of winning than Nick Mullins and the Vikings do. So I would disagree with with Kevin O'Connell there in that call at the quarterback position. For my third overall pick, man, this is where things are getting a little tighter. The competition
Absolutely.
stiffens. Give me the team that I believe is now going to go ahead and win the dreaded NFC South division. Give me Baker and give me the Bucks at
Oh,
home
wow.
over the Jags in this spot, man. I think Baker has his eyes on the playoffs. I think obviously his only way in there, well, not only way in there with how the bottom of the NFC is going,
Yeah.
but his best way in there is obviously just to take care of business and win the South division. Baker has kind of revolutionized his career here, man. He saved himself, right? We kind of laughed at this. This is Tom Brady's Baker Mayfield. Like no young draft pick that we're looking towards the future and we're gonna let him grow. No, Baker Mayfield gets the job. Scotty, he's taking care of the football. He's making big plays when needed. I can't tell you the amount of times I'm sitting there watching Red Zone throughout the first 15 weeks, and at some point or another, Baker Mayfield's got the ball in his hands in the final 3 minutes needing points, and they go down and get the points. They have pieces left over from that championship defense. They have talent. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rashad White's playing well for them. Give me them at home. Yes, I know the Jags are a game better than. There's something wrong in Jacksonville right now, man. And I know that Trevor injury made it seem like things were going to be more bleak. He hasn't missed any time. Now, whether he's been hobbled or not, he hasn't missed time from it except exiting that game. And 3 weeks ago, if the Jacksonville Jaguars beat Jake Browning at home, they are the current number 1 seed in the AFC and can look ahead. They have now lost 3 straight games and not good losses at all. I think there's something wrong in Jacksonville at the moment, and I think Baker takes advantage today with a big win.
I like the pick. That's a game that I was definitely a little tossed up on. I do, look at the Jags. I think the Jags are. I think they're the better team. I don't know, man. It
Can
is
I tell you
close the way
something?
things
I
are
think they're
playing
the
out.
better team too. I think they're the better team. I think the Eagles are better than the Seahawks.
Yeah.
I think timing matters in this situation. And I think
I do think it's something funny about the Jags that, it's funny when this guy was signed to the Jags a few seasons ago, but Christian Kirk, I think that injury is what
it's
is
hurting
really
them, bro.
throwing
It's
throwing their
really hurting
offense
them.
off because he's such a niche.
Ridley
He's such a
has
niche
shown
guy.
flashes throughout the year. Ridley has not been the top,
He's your
8
big play
receiver
guy.
they were hoping
Christian
for.
Kirk is
Yeah.
that every down, that third
Yep.
down guy that's going to be there in that spot that he's going to be there
Right.
waiting for
Playing
it.
out of the
They just
slot
don't
on
have that
3rd and
now.
5. Yeah, just not getting
So,
that right now.
I think that one is hurting them a lot right now. But my next pick, I will go with the Colts versus the Atlanta Falcons. I know Falcons are at home. Obviously, they should have the advantage there. I think they're 2.5 point favorites, 3-point favorites.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take Gardner Minshew. He's been playing some pretty good football, man. Like I get it.
Very
It's on
good
the road.
football.
You can see like other sides of players, especially backup quarterbacks on the road. But I think the Colts in this spot, they have a prime position. You talked about the Jags, right? If they lose this game, Colts have a prime spot where they could potentially take over the division and move themselves into a solidified playoff spot in the top 4 seeds. So I think the Colts are ultimately the better team overall. But then also with that, they do have the motivation behind it. It's not to say that Atlanta doesn't.
And my pick helps your pick out, right?
Exactly.
Win-loss.
The Atlanta Falcons are interesting, man. They got some nice talent. I was gonna say stars. They're not stars yet because they haven't used them like stars should be used
Who's
yet.
playing quarterback for them this week
But
again?
yeah, it's my thing is like why can't Bijan Robinson get on the field and just be used as a steady running back in the NFL for this team? You like to run the ball so much. Use the best running back that you have on the roster, but they just don't. They don't use Kyle Pitts. They
That
don't
you
use
spent a
Drake
what
London.
pick on?
Yeah, top 10. I can't even remember what number 8 pick.
Oh yeah, on a running back in the year 2023, and you don't use him.
He's
And when
not a
you
bell
do
cow.
use him, he looks like a star in the making.
And it's not a Detroit Lions situation where you have a David Montgomery. There is no David Montgomery there. So
no,
it is a
Cordell
little
Patterson's getting red zone touches. Tyler Algier, like Tyler Algier is a nice complementary piece.
Yeah.
He had a very good year running the ball for them last year. Stop. Like okay, you want to know what it's very comparable to me? Kenneth Gainwell and DeAndre Swift. Except Bijan, the upside of Bijan is better than DeAndre Swift, right?
Yeah.
So
I agree.
I think it's ridiculous that they're doing that right now, man. And who would have thought week 16, playoff spots, division titles on the line, Christmas Eve, and we got Gardner Minshew battling Taylor Heineke in this key road matchup for the Colts, man. Gotta love it. For my, what's this? My 4th pick, I believe. I'm going to go with the man. He's no fluke, Scotty. He's no fluke. I'm going to go with Joe Flacco and the Cleveland Browns on the road over that AFC South team in Houston. No CJ Stroud. That's it. End of story. That defense, who has shown flaws on the road, they've been a lot better at home. They're dealing with injuries. That defense against a backup Houston Texans team, yeah, let's not kid ourselves here. I think that Cleveland wins. I don't know why I'm being honest. I don't know why I didn't take Cleveland around earlier in this segment, but I love them in this spot here. Flacco, man, last week, we had money on him. Thank God he came out with a win, but he struggled in the first half, man. He threw a pick 6. He threw a pick inside their own 15-yard line. Nothing was connecting. And then all of a sudden, he leads them to a win. And you look at the numbers, and the dude threw for like 360, 3 touchdowns, a good completion percentage. Like, what is happening here in Cleveland? But give me the Browns today in Houston.
Yeah, I actually do like the Browns in that game as well on the road in Houston. I just think the Browns team, they're built to win. They're built to play physical football, and you have a gunslinger like Joe Flacco now in the back there in the pocket, and I think it makes a huge difference for them as far as just giving them a chance to win against teams that they probably shouldn't win against in the future. But this is a team without CJ Stroud that they should take care of business with. I think the reason they don't go earlier in our picks here is just kind of as much as we believe in the Browns, it is still Joe Flacco. It is still this offense that you can't truly trust.
Yeah.
But they've shown us signs. They've pointed us in the directions that say the Browns will win this game.
And you're also just waiting for the edge of the cliff, right? Like you're just waiting. Like they're like 3-0 since whatever their record is since he's been there. Lots of big comeback wins like last week, and it's like you're just simply waiting for that moment where they don't come through for you. But I think against a backup quarterback today, with Cleveland knowing that their eye is on the postseason, let's just keep winning, controlling our own destiny. I think they'll be able to get it done.
Yeah, I do like the Cleveland Browns as well. My next pick, man, I'm going to go with the Bears at home against the Arizona Cardinals. 4-point favorites. The reason I'm going with the Bears here, it's honestly just a vibe check for my dynasty team. I got Justin Fields starting in the dynasty playoffs. So need Justin Fields to go off. He's at home. He's against the Arizona Cardinals, Jonathan Gannon. I expect him to have a heroic day. And show that he is the best player on the field between these two teams, man, right? Offensively, at least. So I'm looking for a big game from Justin Fields, a big game from the Bears, just kind of close out this season with some momentum and, see what they have in some of the players that are left here. And even in Justin Fields, man, they got to figure out, do they want to stick with that? Do they want to move in a different direction going forward? So for all the talent that Justin Fields has shown, He's also shown some major detractors in his game. So he needs to answer the call. The Bears need to answer some questions about their team. I'll take the Bears at home against the Cardinals here, man.
I like it, man. And speaking of that Cleveland Browns game that you and I bet on last week with Joe Flacco, shouldn't have been a win. We have not talked.
Yeah.
Darnell Mooney finds a way to drop and kick up a
Unbelievable.
Hail Mary pass on his back in the end zone as time expires.
Unbelievable.
Maybe the craziest ending of the 2023 of any game in the 2023 season. But yeah, and the funny thing is, Scotty, they're going to have the decision on their hands at the end of the year, especially with that Carolina pick, man. Chicago, well, I mean, they're obviously winning a couple games now, so they won't have as high as a pick as they would have had with Carolina and their own pick, but they're potentially looking at a top 2 pick, but probably the number 1 overall, I would imagine. And then their own, which is potentially top 10, right? And you have a decision to make. You know, is Justin Fields the guy you want to stick with, or do you want to go and you know, kind of bet the house on what's a potentially organizational changing quarterback, right? This not only is the draft class extremely deep at the QB position, but the 1-1, well, presumably the 1-1, obviously his year didn't end so well, but Caleb Williams, right? Like, I do think it is funny how once USC lost like 2 games, people just like have slammed the door on what Caleb Williams is as a prospect, as if he's not just a generational looking talent, right? So they have a decision to make, but I do agree that they'll win this game, and honestly will hurt their own draft pick at this point. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they're playing good football, man. So we'll see. For my
DJ Moore was a success for them, by the way. Picking him up in the offseason, that was a win.
I agree. I just think there's inconsistency there because of the quarterback issue, right? Yeah. And maybe it's not so much an issue as it was in the beginning of the season, but there's weeks where DJ Moore has 3 touchdowns and 160 yards, and there's weeks where DJ Moore touches the ball 3 times.
Yeah.
And that's not a DJ Moore issue. That's a quarterback and game plan issue. So we'll see what they do there, man. For my 5th pick, let me go to the game that is going to pave the way for the Philadelphia Eagles to be the number 1 team in the NFC East tomorrow night after they take care of the Giants. I'm going to South Beach, and I want to take the Dolphins today over the Dallas Cowboys. I think Dallas has shown you and showed you last week that while they're a damn good team, while they're a top 2 to 3 team in the NFC, they are a different team on the road than they are in Jerry's World. And they have this long, 12, 13, 14 game winning streak at home. They play just a physical, punch you in the mouth brand of football at home that you just don't see on the road. And you watch the blueprint that Buffalo put out there last week and how they're able to establish the run, and there's nothing Dallas can do about it. You're looking at a Mike McDaniels-led offense that, while, yes, we look at Tua and Waddle and Tyreek and we think, man, they throw the ball a lot. No, they like to run the ball.
Yeah.
They like to run the ball a lot, and they're going to use a ton of motion. They're going to move guys around. Raheem Mostert is, aiming for 20 rushing touchdowns on the season. It feels like they have speed out of the backfield, misdirection. I don't think Dallas's defense is going to be able to stop the Miami offense a ton tonight or this afternoon. And we'll see what Dak looks like on the road, because it is a different offense on the road than it is at home. But give me the Dolphins today.
Yeah, it's a big spot to take the Dolphins. They're looking for their first win still against a good football.
Yeah, a very good team. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a big spot for the Dolphins at home to kind of finish their season strong and make a strong point before they head into the postseason as well. And they do need this game, man, once again, to stay ahead of the Buffalo Bills in that division and make that not as tight of a race. They need to continue winning games. This is a game at home against the Dallas Cowboys that did just get dominated by your division rival, the Buffalo Bills.
It is interesting, though,
you
isn't
have to
it?
Take advantage.
Both teams need it, I think, almost as equally, right? I mean, I would argue Dallas needs it a little bit more, and Miami needs it in the point that you need to see the eye test, because their 4 losses are against teams that are true championship contenders, and then they beat up on the little guys, right? Dallas is in a similar situation, but they do have the big win over the Eagles. But like we're talking about, Dallas is that different team on home. And if you don't win out and you don't get a little help from the Eagles, Dallas is going to be on the road in the postseason. So I think for that, like, they need this game just as much as Miami,
Yeah.
because you lose this game,
Yeah.
you're probably looking at the 5 seed in the NFC.
Yeah. I would agree with that holistically. I think just looking at it though, like I do agree the Cowboys need it. I would agree that they both need it probably about the same, because you look at the Dolphins, they play the Cowboys tonight at home, then they go on the road to play the Ravens, then they finish their season out with the Bills at home.
Yeah, it's
So when you look at it,
on paper, it's potentially
if the
3 losses, right?
If the Dolphins lose this game, they will end up tying with the Bills, and I don't know how that will work out with the tiebreaker record-wise, because I think the Bills will beat them at their place in the end of the season. I think the Ravens will beat them at home in Baltimore, which, let me go ahead. It'll be a precursor to my next pick. I'm going to take the 49ers at home against the Baltimore Ravens, man.
Yeah, I agree.
As much as we would like to believe as Eagles fans that the Ravens are going to go into San Fran and, give San Fran another loss on the season to help us, get back in charge of that 1 seed, I don't see it. I just don't see it at home. I don't see it with a long rest. No. They get the longest rest of, from last week to this week, given it that it's the latest Monday night game. It's in San Fran. The Ravens are beat up. They don't have Mark Andrews. They don't have the full arsenal that they're supposed to have there. Keaton Mitchell tears his ACL in that game last weekend. That's another big play guy for them. So I'm just looking at this Ravens team. They are good enough to beat the 49ers. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they're not on the same field as them when it comes to contending. But I do think off of a neutral field, not in Baltimore, in San Fran, I don't like it, man. I don't like it in a big spot with the lights on you. I like San Fran in this game, man. As much as I'm begging the Ravens to win this game, I think San Fran is going to win it, and I'll go with them, man.
You want to know?
I need it for Dynasty. CMC. Let's go.
You want to know what's going to hurt even worse? Is I think this is an ass whooping on Christmas night.
Yeah.
I know Lamar's dynamic, so maybe you could throw a different look at this, Niners front that they haven't seen. That defense in Baltimore is legit. They stop the run. We'll see what they can do against McCaffrey, make Purdy beat you. Maybe they can get pressure on Purdy and make him look like a different guy. Hopefully, make him look and show that he's not the MVP of the league, right? Because that's a side conversation, but I'll throw this out there. If Brock Purdy wins MVP, it will be the worst MVP
of all time.
Like, just
I would have to go back and look, but
when we're talking about the talent and it would be the worst given MVP award in the history of the National Football League.
CMC is the MVP of that team, period.
Scotty, I hate to say, and I know I sound like such a hypocrite because people say it all the time with the Eagles, right? Like, oh, if you plug X in, they could do what Jalen Hurts does. And we go, no.
Jalen Hurts is CMC, though. Like, Jalen Hurts runs the football, but throws the football as well. Brock Purdy does not. Like,
you could put a lot of different quarterbacks in that San Fran offense, and it would look no different, if not better at times. Like, let me just ask you, if you put Jared Goff in the San Francisco offense, what's that offense?
Yeah, I mean, they're the best team in the league now, but I mean, they would be by far, they would be borderline unbeatable.
You put Matt Stafford in that offense.
When you look at San Fran, the weakness is Brock Purdy. If they have any weakness, it's Brock Purdy. Yeah. So, Matthew Stafford.
He's playing well. And don't get me wrong, he's playing incredibly well.
Yes, he's leading a lot of
ass, right? Like, they're putting up points. He is the quarterback. I know he leads quarterbacks in a lot of stats that, it reminds me of the Joker argument. And you think, dude, look at this. Okay. I'm just telling you, MVP. What's it stand for, Scotty? Most valuable player. He's not even the most valuable player on his own team.
Yeah.
Let alone what other guys are to other. Is Patrick, MVP, is Patrick Mahomes more important to Kansas City than Brock Purdy is to San Francisco?
Yeah.
I'd guess so, Absolutely. Right? So, whatever. I just had to throw that little dig in there.
No, it's fed annoying, up with man. It is annoying. Because we're on the opposite end of the conversation where last season everybody tried to yell at us that Jalen Hurts is not the MVP because of A.J. Brown, because of Goddard, because of Smitty.
And he didn't win MVP. And he didn't win MVP,
right? But then you look at San Fran, and it's like Brock Purdy is the holy son. He's the holy trinity coming together in San Fran. and he's the MVP, even though Deebo Samuel is having a hell of a year at this point. Brandon Ayuk is a wide receiver 1. George Kittle is a top 3, top 2 tight end in the NFL. CMC is the best, once again, the best player in the NFL, right? CMC is the best player in the NFL.
He's the motor. He's the difference. If I'll put it to you this way, if they don't make that trade for Christian McCaffrey at the halfway mark of last season, San Francisco is not they are not nearly the threat they are at all. No, not at all. Are you fearing San Francisco?
It saved their season last year.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Saved their season last year.
Absolutely.
They were going
they don't make that move, they are not this at all. And I think that's the biggest telling sign that he just cannot win this. I'm being serious, man. I think it would be a very bad look for the NFL moving forward. Bro, I'm not saying Jalen Hurts should win an MVP. Not at all.
No.
I'm telling you,
I think if you're picking an MVP for the best team in the league, you pick CMC. He's the guy.
Absolutely. Scotty, I'll go a step further. They beat his ass head to head. You know how I just picked against them. Dak Prescott has more of an MVP case than Brock Purdy does.
I do agree, honestly, man. I really do.
I think Jared Goff has more of an
Dak
MVP
Prescott.
case.
I hate the Cowboys, but he has the better case, man. Like, you talk about perfect setups. Kyle Shanahan included, right? Like that. Let's not forget that key cog there. People talk about him losing games.
And here's the thing. I think the issue for anyone out there that's going to see this or wants to comment on this and say, well, and bring up the Eagles and Jalen Hurts point. To me, there's maybe a few select quarterbacks that would elevate this Eagles team more so than what Jalen Hurts elevates it, right? If you put Patrick Mahomes on the Eagles.
Yeah.
Okay. I know I have crushed him a lot on the show with the way, if you put Josh Allen on the Eagles, right? Joe Burrow when healthy.
Josh Allen is the perfect fit for the
right. Okay.
Reality.
So I would say those guys. The issue, but that's about it, right? There's Mahomes, there's Allen, maybe Burrow if he's healthy.
Probably the reason I'm not taking Burrow is just because of the legs portion.
The dual threat, right?
Today's NBA or NFL. I was about to say NBA.
Right.
Today's NFL. Your quarterback needs to have a little bit of mobility.
So we're saying a few select quarterbacks, but we're acknowledging that there are guys out there that would be better, right, for the job. If we did this with San Francisco, I could probably name you 15 plus quarterbacks that would do what Brock Purdy is doing, if not elevated.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And that's the problem. You cannot give the MVP to that. If you put Dak Prescott on the 49ers, if you put Jalen Hurts, if you put Matt Stafford, if you put Jared Goff, if you put any of these guys on San Fran is probably even better what they are. San Fran probably doesn't lose to the Cleveland Browns earlier this year. They're probably more so like 12-2 at the moment.
What if you put Deshaun Watson on San Fran?
Yeah. Yeah, no,
I'm kidding though. I don't know for sure, man.
I'm not.
Deshaun Watson was some hot ass this year.
I'm not.
The Browns are better. They have been better without Deshaun Watson. Crazy enough.
I hear you.
But no, your point stands.
What if Deshaun Watson, coming back from his time off for being Deshaun Watson, right? What if he had Christian McCaffrey to turn around and hand the ball to? What if he had George Kittle and Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and that offensive line to throw the ball to? You know what I mean? Like, does he look like
I
that?
I do know what you mean. I just think he has some guys there in Cleveland, man. Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb was there at the beginning of the season, and Njoku's turned out to like. I'm not giving Deshaun Watson those excuses. That there's a solid squad there, and Joe Flacco is winning.
I agree with you. Squad. I agree with you.
Like,
none
Deshaun
of them were
Watson
better than San Fran. And Nick Chubb went out in like week 2. So that's
absolutely. Tough. Deshaun Watson just was not good though. Like just not
at all. I guess when you bring up Deshaun Watson, I'm not thinking about that version of Deshaun Watson. I'm thinking about you're getting a better version of Deshaun Watson.
Maybe we see that next year when he comes back. But
for and this comment, by the way, Mrs. Scotty, I know I think that Dallas knew it last week. I don't think they can stop it. I don't think there's no preparation they can do. I don't think they have the guys to stop the run.
And as soon as you adjust to the run, boom, hello, Tyreek Hill. Jalen
Right.
Waddle, right? Like,
Right,
yeah,
like,
Mike
right.
McDaniel out.
This ain't the offense to mess around and
Yeah.
overextend help on the running game,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. They're gonna open you up. So I think they'll play their cards tight to their chest when it comes
Yeah.
to playing the run today. But yeah, Mike McDaniel calling out plays before they happen now. So before
Yeah.
the drive happens, excuse me.
Yeah.
So one play drive for Jalen Waddle. Here it comes. And then it happens.
Yeah.
So I'll take Mike McDaniel. I'll take that Dolphins offense against those Dallas Cowboys. But it'll
Absolutely.
be interesting. It'll be a tough game because there is a part of the Cowboys that they need to bounce back, right? Like, that was a horrible loss, but we've seen it doesn't matter how much you need to bounce back. Like, that's not a factor in these games because the Eagles have needed to bounce back for 2 to 3 weeks now. So it doesn't matter. Sometimes you're just in a bad spot. You're on the road and you're in a tough situation, and there's not much you can do about it. I think that might be the case with the Dolphins and Cowboys today, man.
I agree with you. With my sixth and final pick of this pick'em segment. Let me say it again for you. Jet.
Oh God.
Jets.
You're crazy.
Baby. At home versus Sam Howell. Sam Howell's going to get destroyed today. Listen,
the way this season is going, man, Sam Howell's going to throw for 300.
They might win this game 9-3, 6-3. I don't care. They're winning this game. Sam Howell, Christmas Eve, is not going into New York against that defense and winning this game. And I'm drawing a blank on what they did last week. Now I remember Zach Wilson was an abomination. 30-0. But 2 weeks ago, Zach Wilson was the AFC Player of the Week. So
you got to stop giving those out so gracefully.
Yeah, they do. Tommy DeVito also won it. Yeah, give me the Jets, man. They could win this game 2-0 with a safety. I don't care. They will win this game. Sam Howell's going to get sacked about 8 times. He's probably going to get strip sacked. He's going to throw a pick or 2. And I think that the Jets will actually win on Christmas Eve.
I'm not going to sit here and act like you're crazy. I mean, the Commanders, they're not any world beaters by any means in this Jets defense. They should come out and play hard. Yeah, you had to pick somebody in this game, right? So why not pick the Jets at home? But the Commanders, it is interesting. I just would never put any money on it. Just have this like weird feeling about the Commanders versus the Jets, where it's one of those games where the Commanders like show up like randomly, right? I feel like the Commanders have been doing that randomly throughout this season, and
I think it's just against us. I think it's just PTSD against us.
Last game for me to pick, man.
Yes,
this one was actually kind of tough for me as well.
It's very tough.
I'm gonna go with the Seahawks, but I don't put your money on it. Don't take my word for it. I'm going with the Seahawks because they need it more. That's really it. Like they need it more. This game is a toss-up. It's in Tennessee. So that's what worries me the most for the Seattle Seahawks.
Will Levis, baby.
One of those teams that are a completely different animal.
But I do believe Geno's back, correct?
Geno is back, so that does give me a little bit more confidence in that team. And once again, they do need the game more than the Titans do. The Titans are just playing spoiler right now. I'll go with the Seahawks, Geno Smith in this case. They're coming off a big W. But I do feel like this could be just like a huge letdown spot for them. I feel like that it could be that
after last week's win,
a huge letdown spot.
After last week's win, bro, think about it this way: you're talking about letdown spots. You go back to what Seattle did against the Eagles on Monday night. Yeah. Look at what Levis did against Miami 2 weeks ago. They turn around, they lose last week.
Yeah.
So it's like trust me, it's a thing. There's letdown, especially when you talk about quarterbacks.
That's a real thing,
right? Like you look at Levis with his letdown spot. He's a rookie quarterback coming off an extreme high. He lets something goes wrong. Geno doesn't play last week, not having a great season, right? A 500-led team. They win with the backup last week in exciting fashion. He comes out. Maybe they don't operate the same today, and Levis is able to get it done. But we'll see, man. I would agree with you. I would go Seahawks as well, but I do think it's a very, very scary game.
Yeah, definitely a game to stay away from.
I hate to break it to you. I think a lot of these games are stay away games for the most part.
Do you want to know my favorite games of the day? As
Sure,
far
love
if
to.
I had to pick like legitimate spreads and money lines.
Yeah, where am I putting my money today?
I'm looking at the Lions -3 against the Vikings. I like that spread. That's not my favorite though. My favorite is the Browns -3 against the Houston Texans. And I know, like we talked about earlier, it's not like that was one of our first picks throughout our pick selection here. So I know that kind of doesn't line up with the way we
a little
pick games.
contradictory to what we've been saying.
It's a little contradictory, but I feel it could be false confidence in the Browns. That's why I didn't go with them as my pick.
Yeah.
But out of all of these matchups, I feel like matchup wise, you look at the Browns defense against the backup quarterback in Houston. CJ Stroud being out makes a huge difference in that game for me. And I just don't think the Texans defense is good enough to let me word this quickly to contain Joe Flacco in that Browns offense, man. So
I can't believe you're saying those words in 2023.
It's really their defense, man. Their defense can score for them. That's the crazy part about the Cleveland Browns right now. Those two games I'm looking at, the Lions. I do like the Colts, like straight money line as well. I do like them.
What's that total? What's that total sitting at?
I don't have it in front of me here.
See if I can find it real quick. 44.5 is what I have here. Maybe all at the 44. That's kind of interesting.
Atlanta, 44.5.
Yeah, I think both teams are going to be able to score today.
Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, I don't like the Colts defense at all. I think anybody can score on them. I know this is going to sound crazy. I trust the Falcons with Heineke to score more than I did with Desmond Ridder. I think Desmond Ritter's low is like turning the ball over in the red zone and not coming away with points and shit like that. I think Heineke, though, at least score. Like I think Atlanta will at least score 20 today. And I think the Colts will win. You do that math, you're very close to that total. And if the Colts can have success, which they probably should have some success scoring the ball today, then I think that total is pretty fair for the most part.
Yeah, and Atlanta's offense, man, that's the one that worries me there. But to your point, I mean, there isn't a lot of trust to be had in these games spread wise, but those would probably be the three games that I'm looking at.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, it's a tough slate, man. It's a tough slate. Totals, overs and unders, those are probably going to be the way to go today. Touchdowns, if you're into that type of stuff. There's a couple out there, but
if you're into that kinky shit,
yeah,
whatever floats.
I hit on Gabe Davis and Josh Allen tutties parlayed last night. So weird shit can happen. Weird shit can happen. I have Gabe Davis in a fantasy playoff league, so I was like, let me ride this out tonight and see what happens.
Gabe Davis looks like a star once every 7 weeks, and then
he was due.
For the other 6, he gives you the Furkan Korkmaz treatment.
He was due. He is. He's Korkmaz. I like it.
But anyway, guys, that is going to wrap things up for this Christmas Eve edition of NFL Turf Talk. For myself, for Scotty, we greatly appreciate each and every one of you that watch live or in replay form. We will be back Thursday. It's promised Thursday. This week, breaking down the Week 16 slate, our updated power rankings heading into Week 17, and much, much more. Don't forget, if you're new to the channel, make sure to support by smashing that subscribe button. Also, check out our other channels, DSM Philadelphia on YouTube and DSM Scotty Talks NBA on YouTube for all of your NBA and Philadelphia sports content. Have a great rest of your Sunday, and have a Merry Christmas.